Less stress, more time, more money. Welcome to the Cash Flow Contractor, short with Khalil bin Ali Haj.
What's up, Cash Flow Contractors? Khalil here. Hope that you're having a great week and finding less stress, more time, and more money. I'm really excited to talk to you guys about a sales pipeline today, what it is, why it's important, and how you can build one for your company. I want to reference an old episode. I think it's episode 8, Mo Money, Mo Problems with Sergio Garcia. And in that long episode, Sergio talks about when he was driving down the road and he had his binders together. That was where his sales pipeline, if you will, lived. It was in binders on paper, and he's driving on the highway in his truck, and the window is open and all the papers start flying out because of the wind catching the binder open, and he begins losing his sales pipeline. And everything is all over the place. He pulls over and he's on the highway literally picking up papers. And it was almost a metaphor of how chaotic his life was because of business, because of the way that he was running his business and running his sales pipeline. And so that's what we want to avoid. For most of us, our sales pipeline is something that we understand intuitively, just on our brain, something that we think about, but we don't do a great job of documenting. We don't do a great job of organizing. I've seen sales pipelines on clipboards hanging from nails on a wall, and there's just 50 clipboards on a wall, and there's different text above columns on the wall, and the clipboard just moves from one nail to the next as it goes through the pipeline. That's okay, and that's a good thing because it allows everybody to see it. But if you can get your sales pipeline into the cloud, you are much, much better off. And so that's what we're going to be talking about. So what is a sales pipeline? A sales pipeline is really just the process that a job will go through from beginning to end as it goes through the sales process. A good sales pipeline really goes above and beyond just the sales process, but it really considers everything from where the job originates all the way to where we got paid. And if you're really going above and beyond, all the way to where we got a testimonial, a review, sent a thank you card to whoever we completed the job for. So if you're just thinking about that from beginning to end, there are a lot of steps. And that's actually the first thing that you need to do when creating your sales pipeline. You want to start by listing out every single step that a job would go through from start all the way to finish. And you want to be as detailed as possible with the steps. You don't need to go and write a paragraph for each step. That's not what I mean. You can just do bullet points, but you need to go through the steps in almost micro step fashion. So let me give you an example of that. If I was going to go and list out every single step, I would start with discovery. Discovery is somebody called me, maybe somebody sent me an email that they want to get a job, somebody filled out one of the forms on our website, whatever it is, you've received a call or a request for a job. That would be our first step. From there, we're going to list out everything. We would have that phone call. If it goes well, then we set up a conversation. And in that conversation, we're pre-qualifying them. Next, we're going to schedule that initial appointment. Then we're going to perform that initial appointment. Then we're going to go and do a inspection or an estimate, whatever that is. Inspection scheduled, inspection performed. Then we send over a report, or we give them a report. Or really, it would even be that report is needed. Then that report is generated. Then that report is sent, right? See how we're going into micro steps for that report? Really, we can just say report estimate step, but we want to go down to needed, generated, and then sent for just that one area. We're going to go all the way through from follow-up appointment scheduled to performed to contract needed to contract created to work orders created, materials ordered, service scheduled, doing a service check, quality control check, maybe a service report. It depends on what type of job this is for, but you're going to go all the way through there to invoice needed, invoice created, invoice sent, invoice paid, right? Account manager follow-up. You can really go through so many different steps through this process and make sure that you're just getting as many as you can down. That is the first step of creating a sales pipeline. Now, realistically, we don't want to look at all of these steps every single time we have a job. We only want to look at the necessary steps. And so what I encourage you to do as you have this list is to now narrow it down to triggers. A trigger is something that requires an action, and you want to narrow it down to the key triggers. So, for example, I'm actually going to pull up an existing pipeline, and I'm going to go through what the triggers are, or the deal stages for this pipeline are. So, for this company, they don't actually put a deal or a job into their sales pipeline until there is an appointment scheduled. That is their first trigger. Before that, we don't really want to know or have to start off with call received. We want to know how serious they are, and if it's a serious opportunity, then the appointment is scheduled. So we go from appointment scheduled, and the next trigger they have is quote needed. So they've skipped out all of the estimate generated, all those different things, because those happen during that appointment. And if that appointment goes well, then they're gonna need a quote. If that appointment doesn't go well, then they just drop out. We don't need to generate the quote. So that next trigger is quote needed, which triggers us to take action of generating a quote. The next deal stage or trigger is a quote sent. The reason for that is if the quote is sent, there usually is a follow-up process for this company. They know that they can send a quote and they may not hear back for 3 weeks. And so if they see that we have a bunch of jobs in the quote sent trigger stage, that means that we need to be following up with it, right? The next stage is a deposit collected. And when the deposit is collected, that lets them know that's their trigger, that they need to go and they need to get a template done for the job. They need to go and they need to do some measurements. They need to figure out exactly what the design is going to be for what they're installing. And then that's their action for that stage. So deposit collected means that we're moving forward. We need to go get some measurements. From there, we've got materials ordered. This one really isn't that important, but for them, they know that materials, because they're ordering some rare materials at times, or they're hard to come by, they can sit in this material orders stage for a long time. And so it may not apply for a lot of you, but if you do have issues with supply chain, or right now I know there's a lot of issues because of the demand. So you might have this materials ordered trigger stage where we're waiting on those materials to come in, and we shouldn't schedule work to be done until we really have all those materials in, or else it's going to mess up our schedule. From there, they've got the install scheduled trigger, which means that we're working on this job regularly, and then or we're getting ready to work on this job. Once we've started that job, we have install ongoing, so that now we know what jobs we're working on. From there, we're going on to the install complete. And when the install is complete, we are just waiting on payment, right? So that is the same stage. That's the same trigger. If the installation is complete, we are just waiting on payment. The invoice has been sent. We know that when we've completed it, we've sent the invoice over. So we've skipped adding those stages into our pipeline. The only time that a job is closed is whenever we have received that payment. So it goes from waiting payment to closed won. Now we know if we've been paid, then they're in the closed won column. If we're not been paid and we're waiting on payment, now we know who we can call. If at any point a job falls out from any of these stages, most likely it's going to fall out from the quote sent stage on, then it will go to closed lost. And that means that we've just lost that business. What's great about creating these columns, these deal stages, is that once you have it done, you know exactly how you're performing on a sales performance basis, not just how many jobs did I win, but where are my jobs falling out? Which stage is taking the most time for us? It also dives into your production as well. How are we doing on production? Man, we really got to figure out our ordering process for materials. Or man, we're taking way too long between our install scheduled and then actually doing the install. We got to close that gap. It really gives you some data that you can work with on a holistic basis for your business, not just in the sales pipeline. Something I haven't mentioned yet is that if you do multiple things, maybe let's say that you are a roofing company and you do repair service for roofs, but you also install new roofs. You want to have a different pipeline for both of those. So you should have a service pipeline and you should have a install pipeline, because those are two different processes, two different systems that you're running through and pipelines that you're running through from start to finish. So I know that this is really hard not to visualize and just to hear me talk about. And that's why I want to have a webinar where I actually build a sales pipeline. And that's going to be something that you can register for down in the link below. It'll have the date on there, everything that we're going to be doing for that webinar. It will be live. And what I actually want to do is I want to take someone who attends, I want to take their sales process and how they work from start to finish and actually build it with them live in person so you can watch it. This will be a really fun process, and I'm a little concerned that people aren't going to show up. So please show up for this. We'll only do it if there's a minimum of 5 people. I think we can get 20, but let's get a minimum of 5. If you show up, I will walk you through the entire process that we take companies through at Benali, and you'll get to see everything from there. The only thing left that I want to make sure that you understand is you have to understand the deal info. So what info is necessary for me on every single job? This is where a lot of contractors get confused. They start, if they lose the piece of paper, everything's gone. They're having to constantly communicate with people because they didn't get it up front, but you have to get deal info from the beginning. And there's a lot of different things that you can request to know. So let's go back to that roofing company. There's some information that we need to get up front so that we are doing a great job. We want to know, obviously, the person of contact's first name, last name, their email, phone number. We want to know the address of the place we're working on. Those are basics, right? But we also want to know what their timeline is, what their budget is. We also want to know their insurance agent's name, who their insurance is, what their deductible is, what their claim number is. There's a lot of information that if we could all keep in just one place with this deal or this job, it would help us to go through this pipeline without any issues, without any hiccups, and we know exactly where all the information is that we need to handle. That's a really important piece of information that you need to get down as you're going through each job, through a pipeline. Make sure you have all the necessary information, and not just the basics, but what's custom to your business that you want to know that's going to help you to do better. I hope that this was helpful. I hope you understand the value of a pipeline, how going through each of these stages and having everything clear in front of you is going to help you. And if you have questions, please reach out to us. But again, we'll have a webinar. Sign up in the link below. If you can't make it, we'll record it and update after the webinar's happened with a recording of it. So you can still go in the show notes and watch it if the webinar's already happened. But please go and sign up for it. Excited to see you guys there. Hope that you're finding less stress, more time, and more money. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to The Cashflow Contractor. Check out our website in the show notes or visit thecashflowcontractor.com.